Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today's lesson I'll be talking about the exam tips for VCE Chinese Second Language listening section. So I know next month in November, so you will be having your VCE Chinese Second Language exams along with other VCE subjects you're doing. Um, and not too long ago, I did a video about VCE Chinese oral exam tips. Today I'll be actually focusing on the listening section, which is the first part of your VCE Chinese Second Language exam. So it's really important for you actually to, you know, uh, do the first part well. So just to build up your confidence and give yourself like a boost of confidence, and then you can continue on the reading and writing section. Most of the time, students who are doing Chinese as their second language, they normally realize and they found listening section is extremely hard and difficult to them, but that's pretty normal. So don't be panic. So most students actually on the same page as you. So listening is actually quite challenging for second language students, especially with a different language switch. So sometimes the questions will be in English and sometimes it will be in Chinese, and accordingly the answer they will ask you to do might be in two different languages as well. So today I summarized 6 tips for you guys to actually do well in your listening section for the Chinese written exam coming up in November. Let's just get right into it. So for tip number 1, according to the requirement of the written exam, during listening section, there will be a short instruction time to start with. So in the recording, you will hear something like, you will hear a dialogue twice. There will be a short pause between two playings, and you're required to answer the questions in either English or Chinese, and then sometimes it will tell you, do you have to write in full sentence. So during the instruction time of your listening section, so you're not allowed to actually touch your pen or exam paper, and you're not allowed to write anything. But most students didn't realize during this time you could actually use your dictionary with you, and you're allowed to bring in a copy of bilingual dictionary. Of course, the examiners will check your dictionary before you enter, make sure you didn't, write stuff on the page or you didn't put like your cheat sheet into the dictionary. But during this instruction time, you could touch and use your bilingual dictionary. This is very important because most students didn't know, so they were just sitting in the exam room doing nothing during this 1 or 2 minutes instruction time. You need to make sure you use the time effectively. During this instruction time, quickly open up your bilingual dictionary and look up all the vocabulary, all the words that you don't know from the questions. So by the time the instruction is finished, you actually look up all the new words or vocabulary appeared in the exams, and you just save a lot of time, and also you're not worried that you can't understand a question because there is a new vocabulary or word in there. You already look it up. So that will be tip number 1. And during my past experience, when I was teaching in Australia, most students, they didn't realize they can use dictionary during the instruction time because you were told you're not allowed to write or touch anything until the instruction is finished. But I'm telling you, you can use your bilingual dictionary. That will be a advantage for you to look up some new words. If actually you don't know the word in the question, that will be actually a hurdle for you to understand and answer, and try to listen and find out the answer during the recording time. Okay, tip number 2. Quickly highlight the keyword in the questions before the recording even starts. So once the instruction time is finished, quickly pick up doesn't matter if it's a highlighter or if it's your pen, just make sure you actually circle or underscore all the keywords in the question. All of the listening questions, they will be actually asking the following format using the following words, which is what, where, when, how, and why. So that's the scope of all the questions you will see in the listening section. It won't go out of this scope. Okay, so that's why I was saying when you highlight keywords, those 5, what, where, when, how, and why, those 5 will be automatically your keywords to highlight. And then you also need to identify the names and the genders of the 2 speakers in the dialogue, if there's a dialogue. So there's like a certain rule for the dialogue. Of course, there will always be a female and a male speaker in this dialogue. It's just easier for students to identify who is talking. Once you identify their names and gender, and if you look into the question, you know actually where to look for the answer, where to pay more attention. If actually the question was asking what was the guy was talking about, what was, the girl's opinion, so you know where to find out the answer once the person is actually speaking. So that will be tip number 2. Tip number 3, and most importantly, I have to repeat this 3 times. Take notes, and take notes. While the recording is playing, for the first time, what you have to do is do not attempt to answer the question in full sentence once you hear the answer for the first time from the recording. Because if you start writing the answer down once you get it, you will actually miss out all the other answers for the following questions. Actually, the recording keeps going, so that will not do any good to you. So what you have to do, the first time when you listen to the recording, take as many notes as you can on the side. There will be a section for you to take notes on the right side, and it's all vertical. So what you have to do for each main point or key point of the notes you're taking, do like a vertical way and short phrases. Don't write a long sentence as your notes, because when you go back to check, it can be confusing. And now, also make sure you use whatever language you can and whatever language you write fast to take your notes. So some students prefer to take notes in English, some people prefer to take in Chinese, some people actually prefer to take notes in both languages mixed, and some people even create their symbols to write notes. So which way is faster for you? You do the way that you preferred. I just want to make sure you take down as many notes as possible, because when you go back to your notes, the answer might be just in there. And after maybe 2 or 3 playings, you actually can forget about what the answer is if you don't take them down. And under that very nervous exam condition, you might just forget all. So that's tip number 3. Tip number 4. During the first pause after the first playing of the recording, I suggest that you actually transfer some short answers onto the answer space, because sometimes a few questions might be easy, so the answer for those questions might be very short, and you actually pick that up from the first recording and then you took the notes down. So during the pause, I suggest you quickly transfer the short answers into the answer space. But don't worry about the full sentence answers, because you still have time after all the recording is done. They will give you a few minutes to transfer your answers onto the answer sheet. That's tip number 4. Tip number 5. Please make sure you use a different color pen to add more notes after the second or third playing of the recording. Because sometimes after the first recording, you might take down a few notes, but they're not complete. So when you go back to look at them, you can't really tell what you're writing. So the second and third recording after it's done, during the second and third recording, the reason I said use a different color pen to add more notes is not just adding anything you hear, it's actually finish or complete your notes from the first time. Sometimes when you spell something, you're halfway through and then you heard another answer for the following question. So you quickly move on to write other stuff, but it's not complete. So the second and third recordings is just double check your answer, make sure you complete the notes. So when you go back to read it and transfer your answer, you know what actually you wrote down before. It's also easier for you to understand what you're written down. That's tip number 5. So the last tip number 6, make sure read your question very carefully and complete all the questions according to the requirements in the correct language. A lot of times, students actually didn't read the requirement in the question. Language you're requiring to answer, like in capital letters, and there will be underscore. So for example, question 1 to 3, they ask you to answer in English. Question 3 to 4, they ask you to answer in Chinese. If you answer the question in the wrong language, there will be no credit at all. So they won't even read your answer because you're not getting any marks out of it. So make sure your answer is always in the correct language, what they're asking for. So that will be the 6 tips that I summarized for the listening section of Chinese Second Language written exam. I hope you guys can do a lot of practice tests. You can actually find all this past year paper, I think is back from 2008 up to this year on VCAA website. So just go online, download the recording and follow the exam format and try to practice all the listening sections as many times as possible, because the more you practice, the more you feel like comfortable with it and you know actually how to use time more effectively and practice all the techniques that I just outlined and think about all the tips that you can use in your exam, especially for the listening section. So I'll be doing more other exam tip videos about the Chinese exams in the future before November, and I hope you guys get a good start for your written exam, because listening section is the first part of your written exam. That's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I hope you like all the tips that I gave you, and I hope those tips will be useful as well. Bye.